Coming up on episode 201 of Wheel Bearings, we talk about driving the 2021 Toyota Sienna, the Polestar 2, the Subaru Forester Sport, the Ford Bronco Sport, the Ford F-150 Hybrid. And in the news, we discuss the new 2022 Infiniti QX60, the Grille of the 2022 Toyota Tundra, which leaked out this week, the new Ferrari 296 GTB, and Nicole and I discuss our impressions of our first drives in the new 2021 Ford Bronco, and we answer some listener questions. All that coming up next.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. This is Wheel Bearings, episode 201. I am Sam Abul-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from Auto Bytel.
I am Roberto Baldwin from Engadget. I have to think of somebody.
Welcome back. And since we last recorded, Nicole and I have both been traveling a little bit. It was actually my first trip outside of the state of Michigan for almost 18 months. Woo-hoo. And we'll get to what we were traveling to see a little later on in the show. But excuse me, before we start on the garage, I just want to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons. We've got some new ones. We've got Jeffrey David Maraschini. Sorry if I mispronounced your last name there. Larry Bailey and Casey Jones. And thank all of our patrons for supporting the show. And if you're interested, you can go to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. The link is on our site, wheelbearings.media. And you can help keep the show going. And now to begin the garage, let's start with Nicole.
Oh, we start with me. Okay.
What have you been driving?
Last week it was this great big huge truck. This week another truck. I have the F-150, but I have the hybrid, which I have to say was really funny because I saw it sitting in the driveway and I'm like, oh, an F-150, and I didn't catch the hybrid part when I went to go in and sit down. And I'm turning it on. I'm like, what is this? Oh, for crying out loud, woman, it's a hybrid. Like I literally got stymied by the where's the engine?
Because it was so quiet.
Yeah, I'm like, where's the engine? What is happening? It's like, wait a minute. I look at the Monroney. Oh, it's a hybrid. So I drove this actually several times. I have it this week, and I also had it at the launch drive that they did back in like December or whatever. I like this. I think it's a good truck. I like that it's. See, I'm not a fan of like because I don't use pickup trucks to go, haul bales of hay and snowmobiles and dirt bikes.
Don't forget the mulch.
I don't. Yeah. Although we are doing yard work this weekend, so that may change. But so I like that this doesn't feel quite as big. I have a shorter bed on this, so it doesn't have that overwhelming, like I can't get into a parking space kind of size. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good size. And I like the hybrid. I think it's a good powertrain. It's smooth. You don't know it's a hybrid except for the fact that suddenly you don't hear the engine, as I've mentioned. So I'm a fan. And I love, today I went with my daughter to get cookies at this place called Crumble that makes these amazing cookies. And they're always hot when you get them, but they're also really big and they fall apart. We were trying to eat them in the car. And I literally had shown them the little fold out table thing in the center console when I first got it. And my husband
the workspace?
the workspace. My husband and daughter were totally unimpressed. They're like, when would you use that? I'm like, I don't know, but you could. And my daughter was trying to balance this long box of cookies like on the console. And we both at the same time, wait, the table. We flipped the thing down and we have the cookies. Like, there's your use case scenario right there.
I used it for my computer. There's a lot of times where I'm out in a car and I have to stop and pull over and do work. And I was like, ooh, I'll put the shifter down and yeah.
I know they say it's a workspace, but I kind of think it's the perfect lunch space. Like, when you're eating, you have to eat on the run and you've got the French fries and all this. You have a little tiny little table. You can sit there for a minute, take your stuff out. Or eat your Crumble Cookies because they're amazing. So I've enjoyed it. I haven't had a lot of time with it yet because, like Sam, we were off in Texas driving some things for a couple days earlier in the week. But I do like the F-150 Hybrid. I think it's great. I think it's nice that we have a really good hybrid option out there from Ford. I think hybrids are good. So,
have you pulled out all your tools and plugged them into the outlets in the bed yet?
No, but it was funny. I was showing all that stuff to Russ. And like I said, we're doing all this yard work and stuff. He's like, oh, so I could plug things in. I'm like, yes, feel free to play with the truck. So that'll be this weekend's adventure, I think.
Yeah.
Really getting to use it.
And you can clamp some stuff to the tailgate.
Yeah, it's got those clamps.
You can clamp stuff to the tailgate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I kind of wish we'd had
And you can measure things and cut things.
Yes, I kind of wish we'd had it last week.
Oh, were you doing
some
work?
Camping? So if we had had it when we were camping and been able to sort of camp / tailgate out of the back of that thing, it would have been pretty cool. But
we
yeah.
played.
Could have used it to brew your coffee and.
Yeah.
Right. I might still just go out there Saturday morning and brew coffee just for kicks and giggles.
We played Mario Kart in the middle of a field on a big screen TV.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's all you need. Like, oh, look at this. Take that, camping.
Yeah. Take that.
Take a big, stick a big 55-inch or 65-inch TV in the back, the bed of your truck, and hook up your switch and your TV and your speakers. Get some good powered speakers.
And I mean, I get the appeal of it, like to have all that, because you think about the times you do take your truck out and your places where you're loaded up with stuff and having fun in the outdoors. It doesn't mean that you want to, not have any creature comfort whatsoever. So it's kind of fun to have that ability to power all that stuff if you want to. Not like you're necessarily going to bring your big screen TV, though. If you want to, Sam, feel free. But just to be able to power small things like that, that's kind of neat. I think it's a neat idea, and I think it's something that people who are living with a truck every day, as opposed to necessarily doing heavy duty truck work, it makes it a very livable thing to have just when you're doing random. It makes it easier for people who are, you're just doing stuff around the yard, or you're doing, you are camping. I think that makes it a more livable truck.
Mm-hmm. Or when you're driving down the road and you see an EV sitting on the shoulder with a dead battery, you can always pull over and be a good Samaritan and let them plug their car into your truck. And sit there and give them a little bit of a charge, enough of a charge to get to a charging station.
Drive by and go, I have power. Just keep going. Sucker, no.
I could stop and let you charge up, but never mind.
But no, I'm just gonna keep driving.
Charge.
So yeah, so I do
does
like it.
Does the truck you have the 7.2 kilowatt hour Pro Power on board with the 240 volt outlet, or just the base version with the 2.5 kilowatts?
I think it's just the base. I'm double checking my Monroney that I can't read, so I don't have an answer for you, Sam. It's very dark.
So, and what trim level have you got?
I have what trim level do I have? Oh my gosh. I have I want to say it's a platinum. Does that make sense? I believe it's the platinum.
Yeah. Yeah, could be.
It has the fanciest interior. Like, I love when they get carried away with the leather interiors inside of trucks. It's like you put it in a luxury car and it's like, oh, it's just going to be this elegant quilted leather, and it's going to be, so tasteful. Trucks are like, leather like you're a cowboy on the range. And that's kind of what this looks like.
We just laid a dead cow and then just cut everything around it.
Put the cowhide right on there. Yeah.
Just cut out the shapes and just stapled them down, and there's your goddamn luxury.
Or it could be a limited. The limited is actually the most expensive one.
Then it must.
That one starts at $73,000.
I also have not the exact price on my Monroney, so that wasn't my hint. I couldn't go with that either. So I'm going a little blind on the exact trim, and I should have looked at the back before I hopped. I assumed I had everything on this, but
She's shaking
so
her
you
fist
came
at
in
the world.
unprepared.
I did come in unprepared. Yes, I'll admit it.
You need to
I
complain
was
to your
prepared.
local fleet manager,
I was
to put all that stuff online.
I just had a Monroney that I don't know. It's you can't read it, so, which I discovered.
Which is not very useful.
I'm like, I'll just grab the Monroney and that will have the details. Shoot, no, it doesn't, or it does, but you can't see them.
Super psych.
So.
All right, so if it was a platinum hybrid, that's a $77,000 truck, which is not inexpensive to say the least. I mean, that's more than a lot of luxury cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, I mean, you would pay that for a luxury car because you want whatever cachet the luxury car has, right? You want to be able to say you drive a whatever, an Infiniti, or you drive a Lexus, or you drive a Land Rover, or whatever it is that you think makes you look and feel good about your car, right? It's impressive to others, and it just makes you feel good to have that brand as your vehicle. If that's how you feel about a truck, and you want to spend $77,000 in a truck, have at it, I don't think everybody's going to do that.
It's your money.
But I mean, if it's your money, and if that's what you enjoy, then I say do it. And I don't think a ton of people are going to spend that kind of money on a truck, but it is, at least if you're spending that on a truck there's only so much you can do with an SUV. A truck like this has a lot of versatility, and you can do a lot with it. So it's not like you're buying something that you're going to find like, I need another vehicle to do all these things. Nope, it's pretty much going to do whatever it is that you need to have done.
Or you think you're going to do.
And
that's the truck. That's the truck sells.
Yeah, and in a twisted sort of way, you're actually supporting the transition to electrification, because the profits from the $77,000 truck, which are quite prodigious, help to fund that $30 billion that Ford has promised to invest in electric vehicles over the next 4 years.
Exactly.
So you are paying for the future of transportation with this truck.
You are paving the way for future generations to have their all EV lifestyle. Yes. So go spend $77,000 on the top Ford F-150 hybrid that you could possibly buy and feel good about it.
Yeah,
that sounds like a perfectly good rationalization to me. All right. What about you, Roberto? What have you been
I
driving?
didn't drive anything as big as a truck. I drove two vehicles. I'm still driving the second one, but they both could probably fit. Well, anyway, I drove the Subaru Forester Sport.
If you park them end to end, they might fit within the length of an F-150.
Yeah, maybe. The first vehicle was a Subaru Forester Sport. I like to break up the Subaru fan club. Because people who buy Subarus just love Subarus typically. It is almost a cult-like. But there is the utilitarian Subaru people. These are the people like, I need all-wheel drive because I live in the mountains, and I have 5 dogs. They're all golden retrievers. There's that group, and then there's the performance group. People who buy WRX, the STIs, the BRZs. I fit into the second group, the performance group, but I appreciate what the Forester is. Even though it is pokey, and I absolutely hate that CVT, but at the same time I'm like, I could just put so many things in here. It's kind of like, as I get older, I'm like, maybe I don't need, a lot of power just to go to the store. Maybe, I shouldn't be driving 10. I shouldn't be practicing my drifting while I go to the post office.
But I think that's exactly when you go to practice your drifting.
Well, because you go around the corner. So I part of me actually liked the car, even though, again, there's all these little caveats that the regular drivers don't care about. And the regular Subaru fan is totally fine with. But then there's the part of me is like, man, you need a bigger. Come on. You need a bigger engine, or you need to throw a turbo on here. And man, this car would be so much better if it had a manual transmission. If you just getting rid of that CVT, and put in a manual transmission, even with that, that small motor, that small engine, it would
That's got the 2-liter, right?
Yeah, I think it's 180. I have it written down somewhere in a script. I said it like 50 times, and now I can't remember it because then I had 2 other videos I did after it. So now all the cars are mushed together in my brain. It's not, yeah, it is not a fast car by any means. When you put the hammer down, all you do is get lots of like really weird noise from the like it's, like, why? It's essentially the car screaming, why? While you're trying to push it to its limit, quote unquote. You can throw a lot of stuff in it. You can fill it full of mulch, and it's very,
not a truck. No, you can't.
It's not a truck. And it's actually pretty comfortable. And I appreciate the Subaru's sort of dedication to having a dash that is uncluttered and like, this is the stuff you need. There it is. It's been in the exact same spot for the last, 20 years. If it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of idea. They do have their infotainment system, which is, it's essentially looks like an Android tablet that's plugged in. It's fine. It works. It's not a big deal. That secondary screen that they have above the infotainment system on the dash, that's kind of nice. You get a quick view at your MPG or the weather or whatever else information, the time of day, etc. And yeah, it is and it's also, there's a ton of visibility because it's like sitting in a giant fishbowl because the windows on the Forester are just so tall. You just feel like you're in a giant greenhouse. It is just so, it just feels so spacious for
It sounds
a
like
vehicle.
it's like a special edition, the Forester Fishbowl.
The Forester Fishbowl. And I love the idea that they called it a sport when there's literally nothing sporty about it other than the little...
Well, it does have those red accents.
Yeah, it has the
black
Red is
wheels.
sporty.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
has
hard
the-
to deny that red is sporty.
It is, yeah, that's true. So it has a little accents, and I've always been a fan of that sort of weird, quirky, boxy station wagon look of the Forester, and they've stayed with it, they've stuck with it, which means that the storage area in the back isn't cut off by a sport back or a slanted whatever. You're more of the cubic.
It's a proper wagon.
Yeah, it's a proper wagon. It's just a really tall wagon. Now it's an SUV because it's a little bit taller, but the reality is the Forester is just a wagon. It's always been a wagon. As far as I'm concerned, it'll always be a wagon.
You can't call it a wagon in the U.S. because people hate station wagons.
Yes, I know.
So it could be one. It could be the most wagony looking wagon ever, but it is not a wagon.
It's the most wagon that's ever wagoned.
Not a wagon.
But it's an SUV.
You add one inch longer coil springs and some black matte black wheel arches, and it's an SUV.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
That's it.
That is literally all it takes.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean,
that's all you do.
Yeah. Look,
I don't even think it takes that. I think it takes someone who just changes the word wagon to SUV in their press release. Boom, done.
Well, I mean, so you do have to do a little something. I mean, there have been attempts by marketing people to call something a crossover when without having gone to that effort of raising it half an inch to an inch and putting those black wheel arches on there, and it's a complete failure. Case in point, the Chevrolet Bolt.
Yeah.
When they launched it, they called it a crossover.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Yes,
they
called
tried,
it a crossover
and everyone
because it has a
just
tall
laughed.
roof.
Everyone laughed.
And it is clearly not a crossover. That's a compact hatchback.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that except that Americans don't want to buy those.
Yeah.
But they recognize that without the extra 1 inch of spring height and the black wheel arches, it's clearly not an SUV or a crossover. It is clearly a car at that point. If they had just added those wheel arches, without even lifting it up, just adding the wheel arches probably would have been all they needed to do.
Yeah, you don't even have to lift it up. It's 29 miles per gallon. I got 26.3, I believe, as I was driving around. I ended up driving a lot more than I had anticipated. I was like, oh man, I haven't driven this car enough. And then I looked down and I was at like 300 miles. I was like, oh, I guess I have. So it is
So
it's comfortable.
So it's so inoffensive you didn't even realize it.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, this is a nice. You're just kind of cruising around. It's got a nice ride. It's not. Yeah, it is a perfectly adequate for the Subaru people who all are about the utilitarian aspect of a Subaru. For the performance folks. Eventually, because we no longer have the STI in the wagon, or the STI in the WRX wagon in this country. This or the Outback is probably what you're thinking about when you want to get something for the family, but you want to stick to the Subaru, or you can get the Ascent, which is, I don't know, bigger, or the Crosstrek, I guess, too. I don't know. I like the Outback and the Forester more than I like the Crosstrek. I don't know why. I think it's just I feel like the Crosstrek, even though they sell billions of them, because it's an SUV, it's a crossover.
Everybody loves the Crosstrek. Excuse me. People love it. Like it's
They love it. They love it.
I think there's like 3 people on my street that own one. So it's like I feel like I see it all the time.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I think that's their best-selling vehicle. So anyway, Crosstrek is probably what you're going to get. If you need a little bit more space, you get the Forester. If you need even more space, I guess you get the Ascent. And then I drove the Bronco Sport. Now I've only driven it to Santa Cruz and back. I've had it for a few days, so I'm prefacing my everything with that. I am not impressed at all with the Bronco Sport.
Really?
Like
Why?
right off the bat, the steering feels very rubbery. I'm like, what is happening with the steering? I am not a fan of the steering. It's a Ford Escape. It's just a really pretty looking Ford Escape. That's what it comes down to. And the Ford Escape, Ford sells, I don't know, 7-8 billion of those every year. They're going to sell, 10 billion of the Bronco Sport because it looks nice. It's the Ford Escape. But it's just, I expected more. I think when you have this anticipation for a vehicle, and the anticipation is even higher for the Bronco, which you guys can fight about later. But the Bronco Sport,
and we will.
We will.
The Bronco Sport, I just felt like, okay, this is, I'd read some stuff. People seem to like it, and I just cannot get excited about it. And I feel like it really let me down. It's really let me down so far.
Aww.
It feels just uninspired outside of the design. It's just like, it just feels,
You know what I think is funny about the Bronco Sport is the number of people that, there's the 2-door, 4-door Bronco and the Bronco Sport, and they're not the same. They're not just like different trims.
They're completely different.
They're completely different. And in talking to just regular Joes on the street, the number of people that don't understand that, like people who are really hardcore get it, but like, oh yeah, I saw a Bronco. I'm like, no, you saw the Bronco Sport. No, I saw a Bronco. No, you didn't, because literally the first one shipped to consumers like 2 days ago. You have not seen one yet, and people don't understand. So I wonder how much genuine confusion there is. Like, man, this isn't as off-roady and cool as I thought it was. I'm like, because it's not a Bronco, it's a Bronco Sport.
I had people come up like, oh, you got the Bronco, and I kept having to say, no, it's the Bronco Sport. Well, what do you think about it? I think it looks. I like the design of the Bronco Sport a lot. I like the top, I like the front, I like the back, everything about it. And then I get in it, and then I drive it, and I'm just like, eh. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's a Ford Escape, which I've always been pretty about. I think I did an Escape launch, and Ford asked me, so what do you think? I'm all, you're going to sell a lot of these, so it doesn't matter what I think. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay. I'm like, no, it just.
But they're actually selling more Bronco Sports than they are Escapes. It's
because it looks
the Escape by quite a
because it looks cool and it does look cute. And the name, because all those people are saying, I have a Bronco. No, you don't. You have a Bronco Sport. But that's not what they're telling their friends. They're saying, I have a Bronco.
So for everyone,
nobody knows there's a difference.
Here's the thing: is like if you have the choice between a Ford Escape and a Bronco Sport, I would just buy the Bronco Sport. It's a cooler car. It just looks cooler. The infotainment, I love. That Ford's grabbed a lot of the infotainment sort of insanity that Lincoln has. And put it in the dash, and so I like that dash cluster. I think it has all the little Broncos galloping everywhere.
Actually, I love that what they did with the infotainment. I used to hate Sync before it was Sync 4. Yeah. It was Sync makes you want to hit it with a sledgehammer. And I've totally turned the corner now.
It was sink smack.
It was sink smack because that's what you're doing all the time. And it was just, I really, truly used to hate it. And I'm like, I actually really like this now. Like, it's not just like as if it got better. It's like leaps and bounds better than what it was. I genuinely like it. And I like that they have their screens aren't, 5-inch screens in their base trims. They give you screens you can actually see.
Yeah, you get a proper screen. There's not a lot of latency that I could see. It's easy to connect things to it. There's a lot to like about the Bronco Sport outside of the driving experience for me. But
Which engine do you have that?
It has the 1.5 EcoBoost with the 8-speed automatic transmission. Okay. I got the Outer Banks 4x4. I haven't had a chance to take it off-road. I really don't think I need to go to the off-road park with this. It's the Bronco Sport.
It can do off-road.
It can do off-road.
They ran, when I did the Rebelle Rally, they ran 3 Bronco Sports in the Rebelle Rally. And all 3 of them made it to the end. So, I mean, there's a crossover in a 4x4 class. It was a crossover class, but still, it ain't easy.
So here's my thought about off-roading with generally is that a lot of the sort of off-roading is just a dirt road. When I was a teenager, I would take my dad's late 70s Dodge Aspen station wagon off-roading all the time. And I would get it sideways. And I would just fly. I would pass other big, a lot. I'm from a small town, so a lot of people had big raised like Toyota trucks or whatever. I'd just be barreling past them. So other off-roading stuff like just the regular SUV stuff, I could do that with my Honda Civic in the 90s. I could do that with a 70s Dodge Aspen. I'm not that impressed with the. Whoa, I can do that with the Forester. I could probably do it with my BRZ. I could do it with the Jag in my driveway.
I tried to give it a little bit of credit for doing 1,200 miles in the dirt and the rugged and the rubble and the hills and the sand dunes.
Yeah,
credit. I'm going to give it a little credit.
I'll give it a little credit, but I'll give most of the credit to the drivers.
Okay.
Yeah, the Bronco Sport. One thing that does differentiate it from the Escape, besides the looks, is it does actually have a proper 4-wheel drive system. It's not all-wheel drive, so it's a full-time 4-wheel drive. It's got a locking rear diff and a bunch of other things in there. So it does actually have beyond just dirt roads. I mean, it can actually go places that you probably wouldn't want to go with that Aspen.
You could, but you probably should.
The
long wheelbase on the
disposable. Aspen. The long wheelbase on the Aspen was his downfall. That's where it's a wagon. So
yeah, and you've got a relatively short wheelbase on the Bronco or the Bronco Sport. But the challenge. I had the Bronco Sport in February or March, and we had a bunch of snow, and when I first drove the Bronco Sport last fall when they did the launch drive, and we went to an off-road park near here, and it's actually fairly capable, crawling over rocks and going up steep hills and all this stuff, where there isn't much traction, but it doesn't have as much ground clearance as the big Bronco.
Yeah,
and in wet heavy snow. The tires, even though they are technically all-terrain tires, didn't really have enough traction to pull it through, even with 4-wheel drive. And I actually did manage to get it stuck in some deep snow because it basically just bottomed out. It was sitting on the skid plates on the snow, and the tires just couldn't get any grip. I was just sitting there spinning all 4 tires, and it's like, so I had to get some assistance to extract it, but. Other than that, it is, I found it, pretty good. The one I had was the 2-liter. So it's got, quite a bit more power. You're right though. I think, the steering feels not great on it, but it was okay.
Okay.
But generally, it's a fine vehicle to live with. And, with that high roof, one of the cool things is they offer an accessory bike rack that you can put inside, and you can put 2 mountain bikes inside the thing, because it's tall enough that you can actually fit them standing up inside, which is a nice feature. You don't have to leave them sitting outside. But there's a bunch of other details that they have.
I'm always surprised every time I get out of the car how low it is as an SUV. I always feel like I'm slamming my foot down, and and I was like, oh, geez, oh, okay.
Like you've missed the last step coming down the stairs.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah, because it's only about an inch. It's about an inch higher than the Escape. The roof line is several inches higher, but from the floor, like when you step out, it's only about an inch more than what you get in the Escape.
It essentially has the same ground clearance as the Forester. So the Forester is 8.7 and the Bronco is 8.8.
So would you get the Forester or would you get the Bronco?
I would get the Forester. And even though I hate that CVT, if I had the choice, I would get the Forester. Even though I absolutely hate the CVT in the Forester, I don't like the steering in the Bronco more.
Okay, fair.
Okay,
because
fair
I
enough.
like to go around corners. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's again. Ford's going to sell 1 billion of them. It is a completely adequate and good car. It looks great.
Completely adequate. I love it.
It is completely
it's adequate.
It is completely
it does car.
adequate. It is.
Hey, it's better than being inadequate.
Exactly. And it has 4x4, which is nice instead of all-wheel drive. I don't think any 0.5% of people will use it. I've gone to the off-road park a couple times. And I have seen Rangers, but I haven't seen a Bronco Sport yet. But it's still early days, so we'll see. The next time I go, maybe I'll take it this weekend. Maybe I'll load it up. I'll cruise to the off-road park, and I'll
see
try
if
not
you
to
can get it stuck. No.
see if I can get it stuck. Yeah, 8 point. Maybe I won't take it actually.
He's like, wait a second.
I scraped the bottom of the Wrangler on some of the stuff while I was when I had that, so I'm like.
I hate the sound that even when there's like skid plates on the bottom of something and like I'm on a program and it's on purpose supposed to do it, it's like nails in a chalkboard. I'm like, oh God, what am I breaking? What am I breaking? They're like nothing. They're skid plates. No, I'm breaking something.
So anyway, Bronco Sport, you're going to buy, if you love it, if you like the way it looks, if you're cool with the Escape, but you want a little extra something with 4x4, go for it. But I would get in it and just go around some corners a few times just to get it's probably, I feel
fair.
like maybe it's nitpicking on the end of an automotive journalist. Regular person's going to get in there. I'm like, what the hell is this jerk off talking about? He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Nah.
All right. Well, speaking of adequate, I had a couple of vehicles. I had the 2021 Toyota Sienna, which is actually more than adequate. For a minivan, and I am a huge proponent of minivans. I think that, a lot of people that are driving around in SUVs and crossovers, because of their family, because they've got kids and stuff, would be much better served by driving a minivan. And the Sienna is a great example of a minivan. The old Sienna was very definitely aged. It had been, it had outlived its. It was well past its sell-by date, but this new one is much, much better. But when I first, when they delivered it, and I walked out and I saw it in the driveway, the first thing I noticed is I realized that even for proper minivans, manufacturers are increasingly trying to make them look like crossovers, and
yes,
the Sienna is a prime example. The styling, when you look at it, it basically it's the new Highlander. If you kind of stretched out the body a little bit and lowered it down a little bit, I mean, it's got the same, kind of flared out, bulging fenders. And the thing that really caught my attention was looking at the hood. And, this year, Kia launched a new version. They launched a replacement for their Sedona minivan, which they adopted the Carnival name, which they've been using overseas. And the big thing that they changed with that is, again, the whole front end of it, instead of having a hood that slopes down, and, has that kind of minivan sort of wedgy shape to it, the hood is very horizontal, and it looks more like an SUV. It looks more truck-like than the old one did, even though the rest of the proportions are classic minivan. The same thing is true of the Sienna. The Sienna's hood is much more horizontal, goes out and then drops down. And Chrysler did the same thing with the Pacifica refresh this year. They raised the grille up and tried to make it a little more crossoverish. And I'm almost certain that Honda will do exactly the same thing when they redo the Odyssey in the next year or so. So, and I got to thinking about this, and I realized, this isn't the first time that a manufacturer has tried to do this with a minivan. Back in, was it the mid-2000s sometime, GM, with their minivans, before they finally discontinued them entirely, they were clearly ahead of the curve, as they have been many times over the years. They were just way ahead of their time, and the public wasn't ready for it yet. Like, going back to the original Cadillac V8 6.4 in 1980, with cylinder deactivation, and then the Chevy Uplander, when they went from the classic stubby nose minivan shape to a more horizontal grille, trying to make it look like a crossover before they launched some proper 3-row crossovers with the Traverse and the rest of that family. And it bombed because the public clearly was not ready for that kind of minivan yet. But now it seems to be working. Or, well, we'll see. I mean, minivans are out of style anyway, but we'll see it. We'll see if this helps revive minivan sales. But everybody's doing it.
Kia doesn't even call theirs a minivan. Kia calls it
it's
an MPV,
a multi-purpose vehicle.
Multi-purpose vehicle, right? So they won't even put minivan in there. It's the Kia Carnival MPV. Because the minivan is a bad. It's like wagon.
Yes.
Wagon. And minivans are amazing because they do so. I was talking to somebody, a mother, and she was like, "Oh, I'm thinking about getting." She was talking about all the different SUVs. I'm like, "No, you should go look at the Honda Odyssey or the Pacifica." This is before the new Sienna came out. And she's like, "What?" No, I'm like, "Okay, let me paint a scenario for you. You're carrying your child in one hand. You have a bag, you have their diaper bag in the other." She's like, "Yeah, all you have to do is push a button and the door opens." And then you put your kid in the thing. You don't have to sort of struggle and then reach. It just opens for you automatically. And every time you have to put things in the back
and the seat is right there. You're not reaching up and in.
It's not up and in. It's not down and in like a sedan. It's perfect. It's made just for you to put your child in the car. And you know how much room you have? You have all the room in the world. However much room you think you need in an SUV, you're going to get almost double that in the minivan.
Well, and you know what? I know a fair number of people who are empty nesters who are older, like people who are getting retirees. They love minivans for exactly what you're saying. When they get in, everything is the right height. You don't have to step down. You don't have to step up. And if you have friends along for the ride, they're not trying to create, you can just open those sliding doors, get right back in. If you're not as mobile as you used to be, getting in and out of a minivan is super easy and super comfortable. I must know at least a half a dozen people who are older who are like, "No, I'm in a minivan." I'm like, "Why are you in a minivan?" Because it's so easy to get in and out of. It's so easy. So
and all the seats are comfortable for normal to tall people. Mm-hmm. You're not crammed in. A third row isn't a joke. It's not like a fake third row or a third row for toddlers. It's like a real you can put actual adult humans back here.
They're really minivans. Truly, now that you said, they're really the only. When you look at that third row, they're really the only ones that you can get into the third row without having to be something of a contortionist. Really, because even the ones that, you pull the seat forward, it has better access. It slides, it moves, it does. So it's easier. But still, if you're not nimble, you're like, wait, I got to hold on one shoulder sideways, step up. And it's not easy ever to get in the third row of an SUV. Never, ever, ever.
No, it's never easy. Minivan, though. Just
minivan.
Saying. Yeah. Team Minivan. We're changing the name of the podcast
to Team Minivan.
And the other thing that's different, significantly different this year is it's got a standard hybrid powertrain. So like the Venza, Toyota's going all in on hybrids, and so that's the only powertrain. It's the same setup that's in the Highlander hybrid, the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, and with the power split hybrid in the front, plus an electric motor for all-wheel drive on the rear axle. It's great. It's quiet. It's smooth. It's not exciting. It's not like driving a Hellcat. But, most people don't care about that. They don't want that. And certainly anybody driving a minivan, almost anybody driving a minivan, probably doesn't care about that. I'm sure there are people that would love to see Chrysler stuff a Hellcat into a Pacifica, but the Sienna hybrid powertrain's great. I didn't quite manage to match the EPA fuel economy rating, which is 35 miles per gallon. I only got about 31. But still, 30 plus miles per gallon in a minivan, is phenomenal. That's really outstanding. And, I think that anybody that buys this thing is going to be really happy with it. If it's the type of thing that suits your needs and your lifestyle. It's got all the safety features that Toyota is making standard on all their vehicles now. This was the XSE, so it was, completely, maxed out with everything. It had the rear seat entertainment system, a 1500 watt inverter, so you've got lots of power. If you do take it for a camping trip, it's got enough power from that 120 volt outlet to power your coffee maker, complete with a grinder without tripping a circuit breaker. It's got, all really nice leather interior, 4-zone climate control. It's got all the goodies in there. And it still has Toyota Entune, which is, we've talked about that before.
Wow.
We don't need to discuss it anymore. But it does
Plug
have
your
support
phone
for
into it.
Yeah. Plug your phone in, use your CarPlay or Android Auto, and you're good to go. That's all you need. Delivered price $48,029, which is it's pretty steep, but it's cheaper than a lot of it's no more than most crossovers. And you can certainly get it for more like $30,000 if you can live without some of the nicer amenities, because really. Everybody's got tablets and phones and stuff, so who needs to pay $1,400 for the rear seat entertainment? And you can get the slightly lower end interior. If you've got kids, you probably don't want the really fancy interior anyway. You want something that's going to be easy to clean and everything. So no, it's a really good minivan, and I'll be curious to see if Toyota launches a Sienna Prime with a plug-in hybrid at some point, to go up against the Pacifica hybrid. Because they're doing, the RAV4 Prime is doing quite well, and so I think I wouldn't be surprised if next year we get a Sienna Prime to go along with it.
Oh yeah.
That makes sense.
The other vehicle I had just for a long weekend was the Polestar 2. Finally got into that one, and it's an electric Volvo, which is nothing wrong with that. It's a very good thing. It's a sedan, sort of a tall sedan shaped 5-door hatchback, which actually, given the size of the vehicle, it's sort of a more compact size. With a fastback roofline, which means that if they had made it an actual sedan, it would have had a really tiny trunk opening. So, it's actually a lot better to make it a hatchback because you can actually get stuff in. You can fold down the rear seats. You got lots of cargo space for all your stuff. You look at it, it looks like a Volvo. I think we've seen some Polestar concepts recently that kind of the styling is going to start to diverge away from the Volvo design language, or at least the current Volvo design language. We don't know what the next generation Volvo language looks like, which apparently it sounds like it's going to be quite a bit different from a conversation I had with somebody earlier this week. But the Polestar 2 certainly looks like a current generation Volvo, complete with the Thor's hammer, signature lighting in the headlamp clusters. The only thing about this car that I was not crazy about was it has a very high belt line, and so when you're sitting in it, the window sills are up above my shoulders. And I'm not as tall as you, Robbie, but I have a long torso, so it's unusual for me to feel like I'm sitting so low in a car. So visibility is not great. But aside from that, I like the rest of it. The interior, if you've driven any Volvo in recent years, you'll instantly feel pretty much right at home. With the steering wheel, the shifter. It does have a new center console with a larger display, and this is the first model they've launched with the Android Automotive infotainment system that is replacing Census, which we have complained about regularly in past years on this show before you guys arrived. So this is a system, it's a version of Android that is specifically set up for cars. And unlike the version of Android Automotive that Chrysler is using in the Pacifica and other new models, Stellantis has opted not to use Google Automotive Services. So you don't get things like the Google Play Store, Google Maps, Google Assistant. They have, Amazon Alexa and TomTom Maps and various other services that they're putting in there. Volvo and Polestar are going all in on the Google services. So you do have Google Maps and the Google Assistant. When you get in the car for the first time, you can sign into your Google account. And if you have previously trained Google Assistant to recognize your voice, once you sign in, you just say, "Okay, G," and it pops up and it'll recognize your voice, and you can give it all the same kind of commands you use with your phone or your Google Home devices, whatever other devices you got that run the assistant. Works really well. There's the Play Store is on there with a selection of assorted apps that you can download. You've got the full-blown Google Maps, which when you're using Maps, shows up right in the instrument cluster and gives you shows you your directions right in the cluster there, along with your speed and state of charge. The system worked really well, and it also does have support for Apple CarPlay. So if you are an iPhone user, you can connect your iPhone and you can use CarPlay instead of Google Assistant, but instead of the Google stuff. So I found that the system worked really well. It was a responsive system, and it's a new interface. I thought it was pretty well laid out, easy to use, and and then the electric powertrain. It comes standard with a dual motor, 402 horsepower. Setup, 78 kilowatt hour battery. It's officially rated at 233 miles, and it defaults to a low regen setting, so it behaves more like a conventional gas car. If you put it in the one pedal driving mode with maximum regen, you will get more range. And it as soon as I did that, it popped the estimated driving range from 230 to 250 miles. I didn't drive it all the way to completely deplete it, but I put about 160 miles on it, and it still had plenty of range left, and I think it could probably easily make 250 miles if you're driving it in one pedal mode. So and it's quick. It's 0 to 60 is about 4.5 seconds. So it's probably quicker than any current Volvo, and I really enjoyed it, except for the high belt line. That was my only real complaint.
It feels like the car's like 10% too tall, like in between the bottom of the and the belt line. From the bottom, it just feels like you look at it, you're like, oh, this is cool. Then you look at it again, and you're like, oh, wait, why is it so chunky between here and here?
Yeah, it does. But it does have quite a chunky look to it.
Yeah, it feels like, especially when you look at the Polestar 1, which was so sleek and sort of beautiful and aerodynamic. And I think without the Polestar 1, people will look at this and be like, oh, this is really nice. But when you put it next to it, like, oh, it's like its little chunky brother.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, this shares the same platform as the XC40, and you can now get the XC40 Recharge, which has the same electric powertrain in it, with the XC40 body on it. And I'm gonna have to get my hands on one of those and try it out, because I know I didn't have that same feeling of it the sides feeling too tall in the XC40 when I drove it. So I want to compare that. And this might be one time when I actually prefer a crossover version to the sort of crossover-ish sedan type vehicle.
Driving, I haven't driven both. I still like the Polestar 2. Again, I have a very long torso and long arms, so I think for me it's not that much of an issue, but I think the rest of the human race will have probably a little bit more where you're like, you want to put your arm up on the window sill, but now your arm's like up over by your ear. You're just like, okay, now I kind of look like a vulture.
It's like the handlebars on the motorcycles where they're like holding the motorcycles.
Yeah, on the old choppers. I feel like you're an easy rider.
Where their hands are like, your hands are like a foot and a half above your head.
You got the
sissy
big
bars.
You got sissy bars for your Volvo or your Polestar, your Volvo Polestar. Yeah, it's an EV that's from a startup, well, quote unquote startup that has all the niceties of a Volvo. You're like, oh, I feel okay buying this because I know it's really it's a Volvo. At least for now.
Well, and they just announced this week that the next Polestar model, the Polestar 3, is going to be an actual crossover, and it's going to be built starting next year in South Carolina, in the Volvo plant in South Carolina. The Polestar 2 is actually manufactured it's assembled in China, because Volvo is owned by Geely, which is a Chinese automaker, and they have a bunch of brands. So this one is coming from China. The next one is going to be built in the U.S., so it bypasses some of the tariffs on Chinese-built vehicles. And this one it's a little pricey. It's $59,900 is the sticker price with delivery, and the $1,200 metallic paint that was on this one. It came to $62,550. This is a car that's clearly trying to compete with the Model 3, and I think it's not fully competitive. I mean, the Model 3 does outdo it in a number of ways. Certainly in terms of range, and the Model 3 performance will outrun it by a bit. But if you want an electric car with decent range that is a little different, if you don't want to be driving the Silicon Valley Camry, which is really what the Model 3 is now, if you want something unique, then this is definitely something you should consider.
Yeah.
All right. Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
With so many options, Why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Shall we get to some news?
Yes, we shall.
So, what should we start with? The Infiniti, the QX60.
Yeah, let's go QX60.
Okay. So as we record earlier today, Infiniti revealed the new QX60, which is their 3-row crossover. It is Infiniti's version of the Nissan Pathfinder. We haven't driven it yet. We've only seen it. What do you guys think of it so far, based on what you can see?
My first impressions were that I liked it. I think the styling is good. Infiniti is a luxury brand, so it has to look sort of sleek and sexy and look like you paid what you paid for that car. And when you look at the exterior is beautiful. The interior looks stunning. They have a couple of photos with the quilted leather, and it has this very rich, sleek feeling to it. I think it looks great, and from what they're saying about what it's going to have, it has like a V6 and a 9-speed automatic, and it feels like it's going to look and drive nicely. Until we actually get our hands on it, who really knows? But my first impression was a positive one.
Yeah, well, you and I have both driven the Pathfinder. And, this has the same powertrain that's in the Pathfinder. It's the same suspension. It'd probably be tuned slightly differently, but, it's basically the same thing.
I think you would tune it to be a little bit more, a little smoother. I mean, the luxury cars have that certain amount of, I always think of it as float. They float over bumps. Like you feel the bump, but it's never bump. It's just, whoo. It's like these little, so I would think they would tune it a little bit more smoothly, but who knows?
Yeah.
But no, I like
Robbie?
the Pathfinder, so I would imagine I would like this.
I concur. It is, I like the way it looks. I think the profile is really nice. And it does evoke that the sort of that luxury that Infiniti is going for, and really Nissan is going for. And the interior, I do like the little quilted diamonds.
I love that on the dashboard.
Yeah,
the way there's that little panel.
It makes
quilting,
you want to just touch them.
Just to play with them, like they should pop like bubble wrap.
Yeah, like bubble wrap. They're the bubble wrap of car.
Pop. And that's not very luxury car, but it would amuse me.
I kind of like the way the infotainment screen sort of emerges out of those little diamonds. I think Nissan needs some wins, and Infiniti needs wins, and I think just from the look, I think this is going to do well for them. Of course, we still have to drive it. I might drive it and hate the steering. So who knows?
I know. We'll pull up this old episode and say, "Remember when you guys liked that?"
I know.
It's interesting that they did abandon the two screen infotainment system that they've had in many of their vehicles. I can't remember if the old QX60 had that dual screen system. I don't think it did, but this one, they're moving to the single screen stand up tablet type of layout that you see on most modern vehicles now, so it's a little more conventional looking. But this thing it has a lot of the same kinds of neat features that are on the Pathfinder, like those second row seats that, when you need to get into the third row, the second row seats, the whole thing flips forward. You don't have to fold it down and then slide it forward. The whole thing just tilts up and forward. So if you have a car seat in there, you can leave the car seat in. You don't have to remove the car seat to get into the third row, things like that. The exterior styling, I thought was interesting when I saw it. During a backgrounder last week. It immediately reminded me of a cross between the Lincoln Navigator and contemporary, the newer Mazdas like the CX-30 and the Mazda 3, which have that very smooth, body sides, kind of sculpted, but no sharp edges on it, and then moving to this wraparound look at the rear pillar on this thing, very much like the Navigator, moving away from I was on this call with Alfonso Abaya, the head of design for Nissan, and asked him, Nissan for the last decade or so have had this look, to the C pillar, the rear pillar, where they've got kind of a hook in there. And I can't remember the term they used for it, but they're getting rid of that. And then this is the look we're going to see on Infinitis going forward. What do you think of that?
I think it looks good. I like that it's, we were talking about joking about making things look like an SUV and that, you put red on it and suddenly it's sport. I feel like the luxury brands are going to, okay, what we do to make our car look like luxury is you have to remove all the creases. You have to make everything really smooth. You have to sort of make it all sleek and rounded. That's the elegance, the luxury vibe that they're all giving. So I agree with you. And I think it looks good. I do think it's an improvement. And I think if that's the way that they're going, Sam, if that's the direction, I think it's a positive direction, one that's going to bring more people to the brand as opposed to sort of something that almost looks a little dated, like last year's luxury. This looks like where luxury cars are going. Mm-hmm. So I think it's attractive. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I think, and what I do like? I like I feel like more automakers are sort of like they went maybe a little too far in with the displays, dual displays, 3 displays, 12 displays, I don't know, however many displays. And so you're getting people are finally like, we don't need a display to adjust the climate control. I want to be able to just turn something for the volume, and I want to be able to adjust the heat and the cold. And we're still going to have a lot of displays in the EVs, but I think for luxury vehicles, I think it's going to make people happy. I think it was maybe everyone went a little bit too in on display with the dual display stuff, and I'm happy that they still have the display that people want and people need, but also tangible things that people can touch. I know it costs more, and you can't update it, but luxury.
But how often do you actually need to update your climate control interface?
Exactly.
If you do it right, it should be good for the life of the car.
So what do you want to do? Well, I want it to get hot, but I also want it to get cold, and I want the fan to be like low or off,
if only it
but
did
also
that when
higher.
I bought it.
Yeah. After that, I want the fan to be variable, and I want to either get hot or cold or just at least keep the same temperature. Okay, yeah.
At least in the Polestar, you can just say, "Hey, G, set the temperature to 72 degrees, or it's too hot," and it'll turn down the temperature for you.
You know what I want every temperature system to have? So when you set it to auto and you set it really cold because say your car is really hot, and there's only one, like it can only come out high speed, like blowing your face off kind of air. I'm like, I want the ice cold, but some of them are like, you can have high, medium, and low. I want a low amount of cold air blowing at my face, not like I have just walked into the Arctic during a blizzard. I want it ice cold, but not that much of it. I want them all to have a button that has high, medium, and low. That would make me, that's all I want from my climate control. Just let me adjust the fan while still keeping it freezing cold.
Yeah, they have the auto with high, medium, low. Like Ford has it. I think Hyundai has it as well, where you can I want it, to be 62 degrees, but I don't want it 62. While you're getting there, I don't want to feel like I'm standing behind a propeller.
Yes, exactly. Like I want you to do your best to make it 62 while not blowing the hair off of my head in the process. Can we just turn down the fan level just a skosh?
Flowing hair behind you.
Yeah. That's all I want.
And of course, the QX60 as a new luxury SUV must have a larger grille, but it's still comparatively modest relative to another grille that we saw this week.
What grille would that be?
The 22 Toyota Tundra. The Tundra is finally getting a redesign, and a photo of it leaked out this week. And this thing's got a serious grille.
It does.
What do you? What can we say about this grille?
Is big.
It looks like a bulldog a little, and then like a bulldog, like a mouse just sort of disappears into the underside of the dog. I kind of feel like it does that, and then it has the eyes, and it looks like it's almost crying because it has those vents underneath the eye. Yeah. It's a crying bulldog. It's so And then it just sort of they extended with the black bumper, so it just looks. The giant. I don't know. Yeah, all I can think about.
There's that giant
Toyota
light bar underneath it, like the Toyota. In case you didn't know, Toyota. And there's that light bar underneath it, which makes it look like There's that like it's a lot. It's almost the length of the word Toyota. It's so big. That light bar. I don't know what's up with that.
They should make it red and have the little thing go back and forth, so it's Knight Rider or.
Oh yeah, like Kit.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun,
Or have it be programmable. Make it whatever color you want.
And it's just have like a little disco.
You can change the color based on the season. It can be pink at Easter. It can be orange at Halloween.
I think we solved Toyota's problem.
Actually, I don't think they actually can do that. I think it's illegal because last year when we saw at the GM EV Day, when we saw the Cadillac Lyriq for the first time, it's got the light up Cadillac logo in the front, but it was only in white. It didn't have any of the colors that are usually in the Cadillac Shield logo. And I asked why they did it that way. And they said because of federal motor vehicle safety regulations, all the lights except for turn signals, all the other lights on the front have to be white. So
on the front, I was going to say, well, what about people that do all the crazy? But don't people do colored stuff like around their headlights and stuff? I feel like there's aftermarket stuff, like you've seen them glow.
Oh, aftermarket, yeah. I mean, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're legal.
So suddenly it's legal? Oh, okay. But no, I guess, do you ever see anyone getting pulled over? No. You see those people who've tweaked out their, So, okay.
But,
I'm like,
the factory couldn't do that. I'm sure there will be somebody that will offer, an aftermarket replacement for this light bar that lets you do the, picture colors and, do whatever else you want with whatever flashing patterns you want to use, I'm sure there will be people.
I was going to say, you can blind oncoming traffic. Blind them.
I'm sure that there will be those, that will buy this thing, and set it up as a strobe, just to try to trigger people that, have epilepsy.
Seizure disorders.
It's a bit much. We don't know anything else specific about this truck yet. It should be released in full in the next week or two, I think. We'll come back to it later, maybe.
You can kind of see the word Tundra it's like on the top of the bumper that's also black in there.
Oh yeah,
it's really
in the bumper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's really like Toyota. But they don't. It's the same font, so it's not like Raptor or Ford, where it's just like this big, strong font. It's just like Toyota, and
you know what's really tiny? If you look on the hood, the TRD Pro thing, teeny tiny little. Look on the hood. It's wee
little TRD
it's
Pro.
Wee little tiny. So
on those vents at the back by the windshield.
Yeah, can you see it? It's just like teeny tiny. So maybe this is the grill that'll be on the TRD Pro.
Maybe.
But it'll be less grill.
Maybe the other versions will have something a little more sedate.
Sedate.
We can only hope.
It wouldn't take much to be more sedate. Like, it would take very little.
It's just so, yeah.
All right. On the opposite spectrum of design from this, as we record this morning, Ferrari released their latest model, the 296 GTB. This is the replacement for their long-running series of V8 sports cars, and it's a little bit smaller. It has a 2.9 liter twin turbocharged V6 and a plug-in hybrid, and I think it looks fantastic. What do you guys think?
It's absolutely beautiful. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. It's beautiful, and it looks like a car from the future that looks cool. Because a lot of automakers, when they try to make the car of the future, it kind of misses the mark, or it's very, or it's very polarizing. I feel like everyone's gonna look at this and be like, oh, yeah. I don't think there's anything really polarizing. Well, we all like it, so there you go.
Even the inside. Did you check out the interior shots? This thing is unbelievably gorgeous.
So pretty.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job on the inside as well. Beautiful shapes, looks like fantastic materials.
All those beautiful swooping curves on the outside carry right on through. It's a stunning, stunning car.
Yep.
Those Ferrari people really know what they're doing, don't they?
It's like they design pretty cars or something. Like they've done this a few times. Whatever.
It's their jam.
It's their jam. It's
819 horsepower, and that includes a 165 horsepower electric motor as part of that setup. So this is significantly more power. It's more powerful, quite a bit more powerful than the F8 Tributo, which this replaces. It is 300 pounds heavier thanks to the battery, but that battery also gets you 16 miles of electric driving range. So, if you're driving this thing in European cities where, there's a lot of cities in Europe that are creating zero emission zones in the city centers, you can have this thing, save the battery power, and as you drive into central London or Paris, you can just switch it over to electric mode. And I don't know about. I can't imagine driving a completely silent Ferrari, but
I know that does seem a little bit broken, doesn't it? That it's not going to have a glorious. That what he just did. That it's not going to have that.
They're going to have the Ferrari gong.
Yes.
Still, I mean, you were driving it. I don't even think you need the sound. People are going to see it and be like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the look of it. My gosh.
Doesn't matter what it sounds like.
Really, it could sound like anything. Who the heck cares if it looks like that?
It's true.
Yep. All right. Next up, Nicole and I each took separate trips to Austin, Texas this week. And we were there to drive the Ford Bronco. And
yes, we were. The actual Bronco, not the Bronco Sport.
Yes, the real Bronco. The big Bronco. The big
real,
kid
real.
Bronco.
For real.
The real deal.
Yeah. Yes. And we had slightly differing opinions of this thing. So why don't you go first, Nicole?
Only
and then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Do we have... Okay.
I didn't drive the Bronco, so I get to play referee today. Here we go.
Yeah, he just gonna sit there in the background and go, "Stop fighting." First of all, I really liked it. I thought it was great. I like how it looks, and off-road, I loved it. And there's some off-road features in this thing that are amazing. And I'm going to mess up the name of it, but there's like a turn control. Look it up, Sam. You've always got
trailer
everything.
Turn assist.
There's a trail turn assist.
Trail turn assist. Yes.
And it basically, like if you have a really tight corner, you just push a button on the dashboard and it kind of lets you almost pivot on the inside rear wheel. It's like you can do donuts. One guy called it the donut button because if you just push that button and you hit the gas and you just crank the wheel, and it has to be, it's not just like you do a light turn to the right or a light turn to the left. You have to sort of peg it as far to the right as it'll go or as far to the left, and then it will engage, and it like really lets you just like pivot right around something. So if you have a tight turn, that's cool. That was a cool feature, and you could use that on some of the off-road driving that we did, and it worked beautifully. I liked that. I thought that was amazing.
What it does is it locks up the inside rear wheel. So as soon as you turn the wheel all the way to lock on either side, then it'll lock the inside rear wheel, so it won't spin, and the other wheels will just drive around it.
Yeah, so you just like sit on that wheel and whoop, you pivot. It's really cool. And then they also had a semi-hydraulic sway bar disconnect. Did I get that right, Sam? Did I get the whole thing in there? So instead of it being just mechanical, because of the semi-hydraulic thing, which I believe the Bronco is the only vehicle that has that right now in its little class, you don't have to worry about like, okay, that looks like I'm going to need to disconnect that. I should do that before I attack that area. You can be in the middle of it and say, oh, I need to disconnect this, boom, and you can do it. So you're not limited to when you do it. Whenever you want to do that, go ahead and do that, which if you're a hardcore off-roader, is a pretty neat feature. I honestly don't know how many people are that hardcore. Like I always wonder when these vehicles have all these features, how many people that have this are actually going to need this. But if you do need it, it was very cool.
My neighbor across the street with his '97 Wrangler, he would love stuff like this. Yeah, he doesn't drive it. He doesn't drive the Wrangler on the road. He flat tows it behind his RV to go to places to drive it. In the kind of environment we were driving in.
Yeah, so for that guy is going to love these features. And on the off-road, I really did think it was brilliant. It handled beautifully. did everything that you would have hoped a Bronco would do, and then some. They had us going through water. It had rained, so things were really slick. You had that, it was in Austin, Texas. You had that slick mud on these rocks as you're trying to climb out of the water, even climbing up some sort of rock face. The big, huge rock slopes. It's just one giant rock that you have to crawl up. It's sure, no problem. It handled fantastic off-road. So off-road, I loved it. Thumbs up. Yeah, Roberto just gave it a thumbs up. On-road, I had my issues. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't as impressed. I found that I had a soft top. It was loud enough that I honestly thought for a second, wait, is this not closed entirely? Is something not secure? Did somebody take a look at something before I hopped in this and didn't really push everything back down in place? But no, it was all secure. I found it loud in the soft top. The hard top was better, definitely, but the soft top was really loud. I was surprised by how loud it was. And I also found it, and I did not have the Sasquatch package on either one. I found it a little bit unwieldy at times on the road. If you're taking, especially in the four-door, when I was taking, they had us doing some really nice little twisty roads, which was sort of fun. In the two-door, it worked. In the four-door, I felt like I was having to brake harder than I would have expected and to get the speed down, to scrub off more speed than I wanted, or I felt like it was a little rolly. I felt like there was more roll than I wanted. So I did not like its on-road manners as much as I hoped, and I think part of it was I had really super duper high expectations for this. I just did, because I knew that Ford has worked so hard on this, and it's a huge big deal. So I think I set my expectations somewhere in the stratosphere. I probably needed to dial those back in a little bit. Off-road, loved it, loved it, loved it. It was unbelievable. On-road, not so much. And now Sam's going to tell you the wrong thing. Go, Sam.
So, totally agree with everything you said about the off-road behavior. I mean, it was really impressive, some of the stuff it went through. And, the sway bar disconnect that you mentioned, Jeep also offers a sway bar disconnect on the Wrangler, but I think their mechanism is a little different. But you can also engage it at any time. And, what it does is, I think it's actually more effective on the Bronco than it is on the Wrangler, because the Wrangler still has a solid front axle, whereas the Bronco's got independent front suspension. And so what it does is it allows the wheels to move more relative to each other. They had this demo, where you're going over some big dirt moguls, and you get it into a position where it was up, basically on two wheels, and then disconnect the sway bar, and the front kind of drops down, because all of a sudden the other wheel can drop down and get the ground, so you can get more traction that way. And that worked really, really well. And the trail turn assist is also a really great feature. Another feature that I've found really useful off-roading was the cameras. If you get the optional 12-inch display, the standard display is the same 8-inch display that's in the Bronco Sport, but if you get the 12-inch Sync 4 system, it's got surround view cameras, and most of the time with surround view camera systems on other vehicles, they have to, by law, they have to turn them off at I think 4 miles an hour, 3 or 4 miles an hour. So once you start moving, they have to turn them off so it's not distracting you. But in the Bronco, when you're in one of the off-road modes, so if you're in normal mode, they will turn off. The cameras will turn off right away. But if you're in one of the off-road modes, like mud and ruts, or the sand or other off-road modes, they will stay on until you get to about 20 miles an hour. And when you're going off-roading, that's actually really, really useful, because especially one of those big rocks that you were describing on the Ghost Pepper Trail, I think, is probably the
yes,
I
it
think
was
that's
Ghost
probably
Pepper,
the one you're referring
the
to.
spicy trail.
And, yeah, when you go up, you're at about a 25-degree angle, going up this thing, and because the hood is flat, it's pretty horizontal, you can't see anything that's in front of you. Because a lot of these hills are relatively short, so you can't see where the end of it is. But with that camera on, you can see exactly where you are and what's in front of you, and you can switch modes between the different cameras. So you can have the straight ahead front camera view, you can have the surround view, and there's a view that splits the screen and shows you the two front wheels, so you can see exactly where you're placing your front wheels, which can be really handy.
I actually use that. Yeah, there were a couple of spots where the rocks were really tight on some of those, and you kind of looked at it and you thought, okay, I know they wouldn't be taking me here if this car didn't fit, but it doesn't look like it should fit. And I use that mode where you can see the wheels, and suddenly you can see, like, no, actually, I'm okay here. Like, I do have some space on either side of me, so that it definitely does make the cameras make those tight spots and I'm only seeing sky above me. What the heck is in front of me when I come down off of this spots much less disconcerting and much easier to manage.
Yeah, normally in situations like that, when you're off-roading, you would have a spotter. You'd have if you're. Ideally, you're not going out on trails like that on your own. You've either got somebody who's riding with you, or you've got multiple. You've got a group of people in their SUVs. And so somebody will get out and spot and guide you to where you need to go. But with this, you can almost get by without having a spotter, which is really handy. And the other thing, one of the cool things we did during this event was they have this what they call the fun haver course, this dirt trail, and they had a couple of special drivers there, including Vaughn Gittin Jr. Was there doing hot laps with us. So we got to do a hot lap around this dirt trail, and the thing I noticed, at relative, surprisingly high speeds, given the kind of conditions we were in, there was surprisingly little head toss in this thing. It was, the body control was really good. So it was, keeping the body stable even while the wheels were moving around, over all these bumps and berms and everything. And so it was a surprisingly comfortable ride doing that, and it was a lot of fun too. Did you drive any of them on the off-road trails with the doors and the roof off, so completely open air?
I did not. Every time I tried to get in one that had, open air, somebody else was faster, to get to it. So I did not manage to get one. I rolled my windows down. Does that count? That's as close as I got.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun experience driving open air. And one of the advantages with the Bronco over the Wrangler, on the Wrangler, if you take the doors off, the mirrors are mounted on the doors. So when you take the doors off, you have no mirrors. On the Bronco, they've mounted the mirrors on the fenders, just ahead of the doors, like at the base of the A-pillar. So even when you take the doors off, the mirrors are still there. So it's a lot easier to get around that way, when you can still see what's behind you. On the road,
they also interject something about the doors too. One of the neat things about them is not in the 2-door, but in the 4-door, they have a little storage system. So each door has its own little bag that it goes into, and they're each labeled so you know which door goes in which bag, so you know what's in there. And then they fit in a certain order in the back, like standing up, and you fit them all in the back, and they have this fancy harness thing that secures them in place. So instead of having to take your doors off at point A, do your driving, come back to point A to come retrieve your doors, you could technically take your doors off, put them in the back and keep venturing out and not have to return to where you were. You can just take them with you. And it's just a 4-door thing, not a 2-door thing, but it's kind of it takes up the entire cargo area, so you couldn't really take anything else with you unless you had a rack, had something else that you were doing. But it was neat that you can take the doors with you. I thought that was kind of a neat feature, although they are heavy. I don't know what the weight difference is between the Wrangler's doors and
the Wrangler doors are heavier. These are about the doors on the 4-door Bronco are about 40 pounds each. So they're fairly hefty, but they're not terribly hard to take off. There's only 2 bolts for each one. They're pretty easy to take off and then put back on. The wheel arches, if you the fender arches are also easily removed. There's like 5 quarter turn.
Although it makes you feel like you're breaking something. The guy's like, here, just flip here, and here, and pull. I'm like, just yank it off. Oh, I feel like that's not something you should do. And you just pull it off the car, and there it is. You got a fender in your hands.
Yep. So, and they're going to have tons of accessories available, including tube frame doors that you can put on there. So, if you're into that, that there's all that a lot of the same kind of stuff that you can get, that they've had for Wranglers for years. Ford has worked, with various accessory makers to have that stuff ready for the launch. On the road, on the drive up from Austin up to where the off rodeo course is, I had a 2-door first edition with a hardtop, and I had quite a different experience with it than you did. Apparently, I was actually really surprised at how quiet it was. I was expecting it to be a lot louder because, the shape of this thing, it's quite boxy. I figured there was going to be quite a bit of wind noise and certainly a lot of tire noise from those big all-terrain tires. And you could hear the tires a bit.
Did you drive the soft top at all? Did you drive the soft top on
I didn't drive the soft top on the road, only off-road.
You didn't? Okay.
So I should have done that, but I didn't get a chance to do that. But driving the 2-door hardtop, there was, you got a little bit of the tire rumble, but not nearly as much as I anticipated, given, the type of tires that are on there, and very little wind noise as well. So it was actually quite a pleasant ride from that respect, apparently quite different from the soft top. And I have a feeling that the 4-door soft top might actually be the worst case scenario just because of how long that top is. It is pretty long. And so I guess it wouldn't surprise me if there was a fair bit of drumming from the top and wind noise, because it's a multi-piece top. But the hard top, is also fairly easy to remove. But it's not something that you can store in the vehicle like you can, with the soft top. The soft top, you can fold it back, basically like a convertible. It's a little more complicated process than a Miata, but it's not too ridiculous. So you can put the top back and drive, when you get to your destination and go open air. But on road, I thought it was quite good, and on those big 35-inch tires, it does feel. It's not like driving a Mustang, on a twisty road. There is some squishiness.
Did you drive the 4-door on road?
I did not.
Okay, so because I think Nicole's issue is that the 4-door on the road was where she was having, because
I had I drove, because there was you drove halfway, you went down to this little ramp to the water, and then you drove back. I continue the drive, and it was almost like a split time-wise. When I got to that halfway point, I was with someone else. I had the 4-door soft top, and she had a 2-door hard top. We swapped cars. So I got half the drive in a 4-door soft top and half the drive in a 2-door hard top. I would agree with you that the 2-door hard top is definitely... It was more composed and much quieter. So that was a very different, and even driving it, here was the thing, when we were driving, initially she happened to be leading in the 2-door. I was following in the 4, and I felt like she kept pulling away from me all the time. I was consistently why am I feel like I'm can't keep up with her? Why do I feel like, because I was having to slow down so much in the corners to feel like I kept control and felt confident in the car. When we swapped, she was still leading the way, but now she had the 4-door. Suddenly I'm right on her butt because I'm able to go a little bit faster. So there was definitely a different, her drive style changed as well. She was driving a little more conservatively once she got in that 4-door, and she's like, I can see and she noticed a similar thing, and she noticed the road noise. But it was a very different experience between the 2 and the 4, and the hard and the soft. I wish we had more time to try on-road stuff in various configurations,
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a relatively short turnaround on the trip, and we didn't get a whole lot of time.
Nicole, have you been in a 4-door Wrangler with the soft top?
Yes.
So was it louder or quieter than the four-door Wrangler?
To me, it seemed like the Wrangler was louder. And I'm not talking about the tire noise. You get big knobby tires on anything, you have those tires. It wasn't so. It was more the wind noise. Like I said, that soft top in the Bronco, it was on right. I even checked when I got there. I'm like, you guys, is this on right? They're like, yeah, you're good. So, because I thought, am I missing something? Is there a flap that's up somewhere that I'm missing and it's making the noise? Nope, there wasn't. You still know in a Wrangler, you're in a soft top, no doubt. And it's not like it's quiet. I felt like it was quieter than the Bronco. And I think I was expecting the same kind of quiet from the Bronco. Like I had this expectation because they're not trying to meet Wrangler, they're trying to beat Wrangler. So I think I had this expectation it would be better than, and I didn't think it was better than in that regard. Like not, you know what I mean? That thing. I'm like, if you're doing a lot of on-road, this would not be the best choice.
All right.
Yeah,
because
I was just going to say, they did have a pair of Wranglers there for some comparison. They had a two-door soft top and a four-door hard top. And, I took one of them out. I took the four-door hard top out just to, do a short drive down the road. And it definitely, this is the ride quality in that one did not feel as composed as at least the two-door Bronco. I can't speak to the on-road behavior of the four-door. I'll take your word for it, Nicole, that one definitely didn't feel as good. But just the live axles at both ends of the Wrangler, the whole thing felt a little bit bouncier to me than the Bronco did. But in the past, when I've driven the current generation Wrangler, it was pretty good. Certainly the current generation Wrangler is a lot better than prior generations. But to me, it didn't feel quite as good. Now, I haven't driven a four-door soft top yet. The couple of times I've had Wranglers, they were both hard tops. One time was a full hard top. The other time was the hard top with the retractable fabric sunroof. I forget, the Freedom roof or whatever it is they call it.
Sky One Touch thing, or is that what it is?
Yeah. Yeah, whatever that fabric,
whatever they call it
is. Yeah. And that one was quite, was quiet. I didn't have any issues with wind noise in that thing, at least when it was closed. But I think on the road, to me, the hard top, hard top to hard top, I think the Bronco is quieter. But the soft top comparison, I'll take your word for it that the Bronco, the four-door Bronco soft top was significantly louder, and I can see why it would be.
Yeah, the hard top wasn't as much. It wasn't as like, oh my god, the hard top is loud. But that soft top, that was the major, like, thumbs down for me. That soft top felt really loud. It was really loud.
Okay. Yeah. Did you get a chance to try the manual? Oh,
I did not. Did you get to drive the manual?
I did. I went for a short drive in the manual after lunch, just before we headed out, and I was less impressed with that one than I had hoped. I thought that would, just because the shift quality of the manual was, it was a little notchy and it wasn't quite as much fun to shift as the automatics. I think with the manual you do get a lower crawler gear. It's like a 95-to-1 crawler gear, but I think what you get with the automatics is probably more than sufficient.
What transmission is in the manual? Do you know offhand?
It's a Getrag.
Oh,
so it's basically a 6-speed Getrag with with an extra ultra low crawler gear.
all right.
One other thing about the Bronco is picking between 2-wheel drive, 4 high and 4 low is a hell of a lot easier in the Bronco because it's all electronically switched. If you've driven a Wrangler, shifting that thing from 2 to 4 high to 4 low is kind of a pain in the neck. whereas in the Bronco, you just press a button on the goat mode knob.
That was really cool.
I wonder about that. I wonder if they've kept it like that because it still sort of harkens back to that old school sort of, because they can make it electronic. But I wonder if they keep it that way.
I suspect they probably do.
Is that like people want that feel, the visceral feel of like ka-chunk, you are in 4 high, ka-chunk, you are in 4 low. I don't know.
I think so. I think it's like the F-150, like they still has the shifter knob, and they're like, oh, the shifter knob folds down, so you can do something. Or they could just change the shifter. Like, no. They found out that the customers
just
really
do a push button shifter on the console on the dash.
Yeah. The customers really like the shifter knob. So I wonder if Wrangler customers really like having that 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel low, 2-wheel high, etc. in the car. I wonder if that's sort of
they probably do
a throwback.
The one other downside to the Bronco is the fuel economy is pretty bad. I can't remember what the EPA numbers are, but on the drive up from Austin in the 2-door, and that was with the 2.7 liter V6, it averaged just about 16 miles per gallon, which is not that impressive to say the least.
Oof.
Yeah. I don't think you're buying this for fuel economy. I mean, you really almost can't even you're buying this for its capability, fuel economy be damned, kind of.
Or to look cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of Jeeps in my neighborhood out here in the burbs that they look really cool, but I don't think they go off road very often. I think there's
the 4-cylinder Bronco is rated at 21 miles per gallon combined. It's 20 city, 22 highway. And
what did you say you got? How close were you to that?
I got 16, but that was with the V6. So let me see what that one is rated at.
Oh, I'm looking too, and I'm like, oh no, that trim is even more abysmal.
That's 19. It's 19 combined. So, and I got 16. So, it's the fuel economy is not great. But like I said, it's probably not what most Bronco customers are going to be interested in.
It's not why anybody's buying that. If you really want fuel economy, then you can get the Wrangler 4xe.
Plug-in hybrid?
Yeah.
Or the plug-in hybrid.
But as soon as that battery's dead, you're down to 20 miles per gallon.
But for the 20 miles where you have that battery.
You're like, yeah, you're living the dream.
If you're really concerned about fuel economy, get the Bronco Sport.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You give it a fine whatever buy-in.
What am I getting right now in the Bronco Sport? I haven't. It was
better than what we got in the Bronco.
Yeah, I'm sure it is better than what you got in the Bronco. So I think generally, if you're getting a soft top on any of these, you should probably expect some wind noise. I was surprised at how little wind noise. I mean, it still had wind noise for the 4xe, the 4-door with the soft top, compared to like a soft top I had in Hawaii, the previous generation, which is like the whole time. So they've gotten better.
I like the new. I think I might be inventing this name. I think it's called like the Sky One Touch or something, or close to that. And it is it's not really a soft top. It's just the. I think I've got the right name, but it's just that like center portion that retracts all the way back, and you can do it up to pretty high speeds. You can retract it and then open and close it. That one's the quietest of the lot. Maybe it's like a little bit best of both worlds. You get your soft top. You can open and close it on a whim, and it's not as loud as a full on soft top.
Yeah. Yeah. Get the hard top. Just get the hard top, and then when you want to take it off, take it off.
Yeah, I can never do the hard because you'd have to like take it off and store it. I always
think of the soft top.
You need burly men to help you do it, and
I always think of the soft top as like an invitation to thieves. Just slice through it, reach in, grab your, I don't know, whatever you keep in your car.
You're not supposed to leave precious things in your vehicle.
Yeah, don't leave anything in your car.
Did no one ever tell you this? Leave nothing in your vehicle.
It is the Sunrider soft top.
No, that's not the one I'm thinking of.
The Sunrider is the whole soft top.
No, the Sunrider is like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wait.
You're right. It is the Sky One Touch. Yes.
Okay.
Right,
I knew there was Sky in there. I'm like, Sky One Touch. That's the one that I like for the Wrangler. That one's like not really a hard top, not really a soft top. It's like the just right.
It's the best of both worlds.
Goldilocks.
It's the Goldilocks.
It's kind of like the sunroof they used to have on the Beetles back in the day. They had that same kind of fold back soft top.
Oh,
except
that
this
had
one's
the fold
powered.
back. Yeah. Yes. There you go.
All right. So enough Bronco. They'll be in dealers momentarily. They're shipping.
I think the
them.
first one delivered on Tuesday, supposedly.
Any day now. Just go to dealer and wait in line.
All right. So we've got a couple of listener questions. First one from Coach Cabrera on Twitter. Will hybrid motors ever make it to the 3/4 or 1 ton diesel pickup trucks? Probably not. I don't think you're going to see a diesel hybrid.
I don't see the value of a diesel hybrid because you have the torque already. You have it seems like a lot of work for a small market to do. I don't know, something. I guess I don't think it's.
Yeah, I mean the main reason for getting the diesel is if you're doing a lot of towing. That's the main advantage to the diesel is if you do a lot of towing all the time, the underloaded diesel, the fuel economy doesn't drop off nearly as much as it does with a gas engine or a hybrid powertrain for that matter. And adding a hybrid to that is going to add cost and weight. It's not going to give you any advantage in towing. In fact, it may well make your towing worse. Depending on how it's configured. So, you're probably not going to get a diesel hybrid HD pickup. You will get hybrid heavy-duty pickups, just not with a diesel. It'll be with a gas engine.
Yeah.
And those will be coming in the next few years.
Agreed.
At least from Ford. You won't get one from GM because GM has made it very clear that they're done with hybrids. They're not doing any more hybrids. But Ford and actually probably Toyota. There will probably be a Tundra hybrid, I would think. They
with
did
a big grill.
With a very, very large grill. It might even be a double-sized grill. But most of it'll be blocked off.
Most of it, but it'll look gigantic. It'll just be this giant piece of metal.
All you see is a grill coming at you.
That's it. It's like, what is that? I don't know. It's just a grill. Ah!
All right, and the other question this week was from Big Daddy Henshaw. It says, hey, Wheel Bearings team, big-time Mazda fan. Wondering what your thoughts are on Mazda rear-wheel drive platform and roadmap towards electrification. Hopefully they bring back the 6 based on the Vision Coupe concept. Anybody have any comments on that?
I don't know that I have a comment on that.
Mazda's kind of so late to the EV thing. And again, being late to EV isn't really that big of a deal, really, because I think it's more of it's less of a sprint and more of a marathon at this point, because you still have, if you're still making money as an automaker, you're fine. At some point though, you do have to switch over. So I don't. Yeah, it's hard to sort of read the tea leaves with Mazda to see what how it's going to shake out for them. They are as a Mazda fan would know, they're always going to tune their cars a little bit more than everyone else. So you get a little bit more, a nicer experience. So I think I would like to think that their electrification plans, continue that heritage of giving you a little something in terms of drivability.
Yeah, I think it would be counter to the brand to have some kind of electrification that really sacrificed the driving dynamics of those cars. They're beautiful inside and out. That's part of it, but they're drivers' cars. And to suddenly make them not, you've thrown out half of what makes Mazda a Mazda. Yeah. So when they eventually decide to get that way, to go towards electrification, like you said, there's like a rush, but there's not. Just because you aren't first right now doesn't mean that you're done for. There's still time to introduce all that stuff in a way that is in keeping with your brand, and my expectation is that's exactly what Mazda will eventually do.
Yeah. The rear drive platform has been shown. They haven't said what vehicles are going to be built on it yet. I have a feeling that we're going to find that out at the LA Auto Show in November. I think Mazda is going to be making some announcements there, and that's probably where we'll find out what the first product is off that new platform. And it, given that they just recently discontinued the 6, I think, it may well be a replacement for the 6. I think, it'll take design cues from the Vision Coupe, but it's not going to be a coupe just because there's very little market for coupes anymore.
Yeah.
And Mazda, is a niche brand to begin with. So I don't think we'll see it being a coupe, but I think it will. We'll probably get a sedan that draws heavily on the design themes of that car. And builds on what we've seen already with the current generation Mazda 3 and the CX-30. And they also have said that they're going to have a new electric platform, dedicated electric platform coming in 2025. They have the MX-30 that's going on sale this fall in the U.S. It's already been available in Europe for a little while. It's going on sale here this fall. That one's a relatively short range EV. I think it's going to be like 140 miles or so range. Apparently it drives really well though. It drives like what you expect a Mazda to drive. But I think what we see after this next generation of cars, that's where they're going to really start getting serious about electrification, despite their instincts to not do electrification at all. But I think they'll probably be borrowing a lot from Toyota in that respect, for their EVs, because Toyota owns 20% of Mazda now, and it wouldn't surprise me if at some point they just swallow the whole thing up. But we'll have to see. I think like you said, Nicole, I think they're going to try and keep their core driving dynamics DNA, and have a very premium feel to it as well. All right, I think that's it for this show.
That's the end.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I feel like we covered it all, and we didn't even fight too much about Bronco. I'm so proud
That's
of
true.
us.
I think you guys.
We were fighting a little more offline. Like, you're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't, you didn't get into all the details of driving both. It sounded more like you were much more negative on it than you actually were. With the exception of the 4-door soft top.
Yes.
But yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We will see you next time. And don't forget, if you like the show, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else where they have ratings for podcasts, and tell your friends. And hopefully we'll see you, hear you again next time.
Bye.
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 At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years, and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.